Welcome everyone to another edition of Tom and Leo commentary. If you're watching this, it's probably February 5th, but at this time recording, we're only in the third week of January. That's how far ahead of schedule I am. So we're gonna kick things off with the Netflix Warner Brothers merger, which have been big news the last couple of weeks. So basically, the WB is looking for a buyer, and Netflix put its hat in the ring. And later, it could be good and bad things for a lot of people. A lot of companies moving forward could affect Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, DC Studios, All Elite Wrestling, and some AAA games that are coming out. So, what are your thoughts on WB possibly being owned by Netflix?
Well, the initial thought is a concern that we may be getting much closer to a full streaming monopoly on Netflix's end, as there seems to be a lot of thinning of the herd going on the streaming front with things being bought up. I'm also surprised that Paramount Skydance, I believe the subdivision was, seems to be opposing this rather adamantly, making counteroffers and all that. Had you heard much on the latter?
I've heard Paramount was involved in some respect, but basically it's all about money at the end of the day. I mean, it would be kind of crazy to go on Netflix and then have all the Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings movies on there.
Perhaps. As far as I can tell from what limited research I got done, it does seem Paramount is in there as a counter bid rather than actually helping.
I don't know. Would you rather WB be owned by Netflix or Paramount?
Well, in the articles I read, it seems the WB has a strong preference towards Netflix.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping it doesn't affect the DC studios because a lot of people, and this has been a thing for a while now, they want to restore the Snyder First, which was the old series of DC movies. And they think if Netflix buys it, they'll greenlight Justice League 2 and kind of get rid of Shane Gunn DC.
I am out of date on that movie universe, so I really cannot tell if this is going to be a good or bad thing.
It could probably affect some games down the line. I think WB Games make called the Batman games, and I think NetherRealm Studio, which made Mortal Kombat and Injustice, is in there somewhere, and then Hogwarts Legacy 2 could be affected. Anything they could be working on Lord of the Rings, but I don't know if they're working on a new Lord of the Rings game or not. But it could impact a lot of things moving forward.
It does seem like it'd be more of a domino effect on the IPs affecting the video game front than a direct acquisition, as far as I could tell, they were only selling TV-related departments through the Warner Brothers Discovery merger. But grain of salt, I was a bit flat-footed on the issue and have only read 1.5 articles about it.
Yeah, I don't think any sale actually been made or confirmed yet. It's just deliberating right now. Some people are excited for it, some people aren't. It's oh dang.
Not much I can confirm. There's still negotiations going on and a lot of reorganizing in Warner Brothers to determine what all is actually going to be transferred. Last I read, it's not going to be decided officially for at least another 8 months, especially considering there's some government inspections that need to be done.
Well, moving on to our second topic. Insomniac, which are known these days for the Spider-Man games, are releasing a new Wolverine game in the fall of this year. I just seen a trailer and it looks brutal because when main character uses claws to fight, that's kind of going to be a natural effect. But like they don't shy away from the violence in this one, Leo. It's like bloody, graphic. You got a mega wed in there. You got Mystique. Guessing Sabretooth probably going to be in it at some point. Did you see the trailer for this game?
I have, and it's quite jarring to see the more happy-go-lucky Spider-Man style game suddenly having the same studio escalate to casual dismemberment.
Yeah, this is far from like the first solo Wolverine game we got, and I think the first one that I know of was Wolverine Adamantium Wave was on Sega and Super Nintendo, and that was hard. Like when I played that, I couldn't even get past level one. And then there was another game in the PS2, GameCube, Xbox era called S2 Wolverine Refined. It was also just as hard as the previous one. And so I'm wondering, if this is going to be just as hard as those games, or are they going to dumb it down for casual players, or what?
Well, I have no memory of Wolverine's prior video game debuts, as honestly, superheroes is something I just don't really drift towards in the video game sphere. As for the game difficulty, well, the trailers seem to have them playing smoothly with what little I could discern was actual gameplay. Given, again, all the casual dismemberment, it seems individual enemies at least aren't very durable.
Yeah, it looks like you're going to be riding a motorcycle at one part in the game, and they got his classic suit, which is the yellow and blue spandex with the mask. Like he's going to have. I'm hoping there's going to be like alternate costumes in this game. Because that was one thing I liked about Wolverine Befriend was you had like his default suit, then you had the comic book suits, the red and orange and the yellow and blue. Then you had the movie suit. You had a lot of costumes in that. Hopefully this will have just as many though. I think it will because the Spider-Man game you could train costumes like mid-game.
That's a good question. As really, it was my brother that was into the Spider-Man games rather than me. So I'm really out of the loop on its features.
Well, apparently, an Easter egg in the Spider-Man game is if you change suits too much, some radio host will call you out on it. That's pretty funny.
Huh. Characters in the universe actually have seen video game features. That is an interesting twist.
But yeah, if it follows the trend of modern gaming, it's probably gonna have like a super easy mode and then a really hard mode to kind of so everybody wins. So from what I could gather, I haven't played the Insomniac Spider-Man game, but they did look fairly difficult in some respect.
Well, I do not recall precisely which Spider-Man games my brother was playing, but he seemed to be doing well enough. Really something I should have thought to look more into for this interview.
Well, were you like a big X-Men fan growing up or a Wolverine fan at all? I forget what comic books you went after, if any.
Well, early on, it's more that I learned of comic books through the alternate media they were presented in. I was a fan as a kid of the X-Men TV shows back when it was like a weekly cartoon series. I cannot remember exact names, but that sort of thing is how I got into most comic book IPs originally.
Oh, well, there was the 92 cartoon that was just called X-Men, the animated series, and then they had X-Men Evolution.
I am unsure of the first, but I know I had watched some degree of X-Men Evolution.
And that's actually a pretty underrated cartoon. They did some things really good, but most people remember the 92 cartoon as being the best.
Unfortunately, that's one of those archaic memories where the distinctions blur together.
Yeah. So, did you ever check out X-Men 97?
I have no memory of this, so I'm assuming not.
Yeah, that was a continuation of the '92 cartoon, but it was definitely not made for kids because, like, yeah, it gets bad after a while.
That is an interesting choice of escalations.
Yeah, I
I
don't
hope
mean
they.
bad like in quality. I mean bad like in like freaking in one episode, three-headed sentinel comes out of nowhere and just kills a bunch of mutants.
I had assumed you meant it getting into darker content, and well, I hope it wasn't directly marketed at kids during that era. Although, given what Digimon got away with putting on Saturday morning cartoons, I would not be surprised.
One thing that was kind of cost so fussel was it kind of had Woe have a romance thing with Magneto, which just felt uncomfortable. Like he's like Chiso, he's good.
That is a very odd choice for either of them to make. How many drugs were involved?
Yeah, like I guess it was in the comics, but it's one of those things where like just because it's in the comic books don't mean you need to adapt it for your show.
Yes, it just sounds like a tremendously awkward subplot given the age gap factor you mentioned.
Well, I guess it was a thing because and I didn't see this ever done before until this show, but because of his control over magnetism, he can touch Wogue.
Huh.
Yeah, your hun says, "Oh, I don't know how that really works." To be honest,
This does not compute.
yeah. But man, can you imagine had they done that in the movie, considering how old the guy playing Magneto was compared to how old the girl playing Wogue was? That would have been creepy.
I can't imagine that being well received.
Yeah. They can get away with that in the cartoon because the live action, no, definitely not.
That would make the age gap portion of the romance, note the quotation marks, much more obvious to the viewers.
Okay, so moving on. This one's probably more in your wheelhouse. Nintendo has released the full Metroid Prime game called Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. I just watched the trailer. It looks really good. I'm not sure if it might still be available on the Nintendo Switch 1, but I know it's released on Nintendo Switch 2. And Leo, were you big into Metroid growing up?
I had a couple brushes with it, but the series as a whole never quite clicked. I mostly remember half a playthrough when the Metroid Prime games on the GameCube and one of the 3DS that I believe was the Bounty Hunters spinoff, but I'm not entirely sure. Part of the problem was for most of my childhood, I did not realize Metroid existed because early in the gaming sphere, the advertising was weak where I lived. So despite starting on the Nintendo and Metroid also starting on the Nintendo, well, I just never heard of it until the GameCube days somehow.
Yeah, I was the same way. I didn't even know who Samus was until I played like Super Smash Bros. And she was in that.
That
And of
was my
course, when
introduction
my
to her as
brother
well.
had the NES, he never had the Metroid game, the first one, or never saw the Game Boy one. Or the Game Boy one was pretty old by the time I got a Game Boy Color. I didn't go up with a Super Nintendo, but I didn't play a Metroid game until Fusion and Prime came out. I enjoyed those two.
All the mention of consoles reminds me of a prior point. I can confirm that Metroid Prime 4 Beyond is on both versions of the Nintendo Switch, and that surprisingly there's next to no graphical improvement for playing it on the Switch too, which I recall raising some eyebrows and ruffling some feathers.
I think the newest Metroid game I have is Metroid Shred for Nintendo Switch 1, which I still haven't gotten around to playing, but that looked pretty good. So I always thought Metroid Prime was a good 3D edition of Metroid. It basically plays the same as a 2D game, just from a 3D first person perspective. Though I'm not sure why they chose to make the 3D Metroid game first-person shooters, but it worked in their favor. I only really played the first two Metroid Prime games, so the third one was on Wii, and I never had a Wii, so I couldn't play that.
Hmm. I cannot remember which one I played, only that it was on the GameCube. And I agree that going to first person was an odd choice. I presume to emphasize a shift towards more of a shooter than the classic Metroidvania, which is interesting that it evolved into 3D in a completely different direction than Castlevania did.
Yeah, I also really enjoy Metroid Zero Mission, which is my preferred way to play the original game because when I played the original game on this channel, I just thought it was really dated. Like after you play Super Metroid and Metroid Fusion and Zero Mission, it's very hard to go back to the original game because it's very much of a regression in the gameplay mechanics once you get used to those three games.
Well, that is what naturally happens when you go backwards on console generations. Even if the prior ones were certainly functional, good for their time, and often brutal in their simplicity, it kind of shows the difference between the technology levels.
Yeah, about the only Metroid game I ever beat was Zero Mission. And I couldn't tell you how, because when I played it again years ago, I couldn't get anywhere in it. But
I cannot recall actually completing a Metroid game.
yeah, I got pretty far in Fusion and Super Metroid, but never beat those, and I couldn't get anywhere in the first two, and I only get to like the second area, Metroid Prime, and that's about it.
Susan may have made a bit of an awkward choice including that in the podcast. Oh well.
But moving on to our next topic, which is another hot topic going forward. Harry Potter is getting a reboot for the few people in the audience who haven't heard yet. They're gonna put it on HBO Max. I think it's set to maybe start next year. I think they just started filming a couple of months ago. Completely new cast, completely new kids. None of the original cast that I know has anything to do with it. J.K. Rowling is close to the production of this series. To a lot of people disdain because of her issues on transgender rights, and the main thing that people have been complaining about has been the casting. People do not like the casting. Outside of like people just being mad about race swaps, mostly like and this is gonna seem random, but I'm getting to a point. Have you ever seen Don't Walk from the Sun?
I am faintly familiar with it, but cannot recall having actually watched an episode.
But anyway, the leading dude in that, which has been in some movie, but I can't really think of anything that you might have seen. He's playing Dumbledore.
Hmm.
And I'm having trouble picturing him in that role, but maybe when I see him with a long beard, because Dumbledore had a really big Molden style build.
He did go with the classical wizard hair look, yeah.
Anyway, I'm almost sure we like went to one of the movies together with like because we both were pretty big into Harry Potter back in the day. Like, what were your initial thoughts on like the movies?
That we attended one of them together sounds right, but I cannot clearly picture it. And context what we're currently discussing, well, I am curious if they are going to manage a more detailed look into the same story covered by the movies with this series. It should be a no-brainer with a longer filming time, but you never know with these adaptations.
Yeah, because like I have a funny introduction story to Harry Potter because I didn't even hear about this until the first movie started being advertised because I didn't really read much books back then. And when I saw the trailer for the first movie, I actually thought it looked completely ridiculous. So, because I didn't see it in theaters, my mom just happened to rent the movie when it comes out to video. We still had like VHSs back then. I watched it with the family, and then I just fell completely in love with the movie. Then I started reading the books, and I just became a huge Harry Potter fan. Got to like book 6, had the ending spoiled for me. I pretty much gave up reading the series after that. But I finished watching the movies, though.
As for me, I got into it via the books, but I forget which book. Just that I bumped into it in my school library at some point, decided it was worth a shot. And I agree with you that the initial impression of the Wizarding World is quite quirky, a little goofy even, but they make it work. The Wizarding World is simply different, for lack of a better generalizing word, and well, they balance making that show and making it coherent and making it unique, which is an increasingly rare thing in literary circles, I find.
Well, my initial thought was you ain't gonna top the movie cast and they shouldn't even try. But I think they can really focus on 2 things they had at the movies didn't, which is they had more time to tell the story, so they can keep stuff from the books that the movie had to cut for time, and they have the advantage of having all 7 books at their disposal when the Harry Potter movies were being made. She was making the books alongside the movie. So they can like read them and be like, well, we can keep this, this, and this. We have to cut this, this, and this. So they know what's important to the story to keep and what they can cut. And if they do that, I think, like they stay close to the books, for instance, I think it could be a really good series. But you ain't going to top what the movies did.
Well, those are both the classic bugbears of being an adaptation. Never mind, an adaptation of an adaptation.
Yeah, the one point of controversy is they made Snape black, and I don't really mind it. I think the point people are making is they're claiming it changes the narrative, because how is it going to look like if the people who bully Snape are white and they're bullying this black kid, and then if Harry, unless they make another professor black, it's going to make Harry look really bad, suspecting the one black professor being evil. So they just think it changes the narrative. So what are your thoughts on that?
I cannot comprehend how this decision made muster for actually being implemented, given the issues you mentioned and just the oddity of trying to picture Snape as an African man. I mean no malice, but I recall one of his main descriptors being deathly pale, and that's not going to endure this change. Mostly, I am just confused.
The description is deathly pale, and that's why it don't work, but we're just going to have to wait and see.
I was actually actor blind enough that I missed this when reading the actual casting, as they only gave me names to go by.
Okay, so on to our last topic for the episode. Buffy is coming back after almost, dear God, it's been like over 20 years since the last Buffy episode aired on TV.
Kind of feels like we saw the great old ones active when Buffy last aired.
Yeah, so after Sarah Michelle Gellar, who played Buffy, she had been asked repeatedly to like do a 5-0 or return and stuff, and she always said no, but something about this one got her to say yes, and she's on board. We currently do not know if any of the other original cast members are going to make a comeback. it's going to be very hard to put Spike or Angel in it because vampires don't age and they're both very much older now. But from the little bits I know, they've been very hush about this. It's going to be set in the future, well, probably present day, but to Buffy it's a long time. And there's a new Slayer that Buffy is mentoring, and we yet do not know if any of the comic book continuity is going to be added to it, or if the spell Willow cast at the end with many all potential Slayers is still in effect. What's going on? But I would imagine so, unless they like say Fate got killed off. But I don't think that's going to happen. You know. So did you watch Buffy back in the day?
Bits and pieces. I don't recall making dedicated effort to watch the entire series, but I did catch an episode here and there. I have at least some familiarity with the cast, and picturing this picking back up with a Slayer 20 years older, that is something.
Yeah, I really liked Buffy. I think I started watching it at the beginning, but I vaguely remember my first experiences with it. I did watch a lot of reruns because it was on like the Fox network at late at night for a while, and had reruns on FS. But then I got kind of lost interest during the 5th season. But it was the musical Once More with Phil doing season 6 that got me back into the series. And then I watched every episode from that point forward till the series ended. And that was fun. So I'm hoping this would be good. If tell Michelle Gellar thinks it's good, I'm sure it's good. I guess it's going to be on Hulu. I'm not sure when it's slated to come out. Maybe next year or a year or two, but it's going to be interesting. But this is just a long line of people bringing back old shows out of whether as a reboot, a legacy sequel, or a continuation of some kind. It's just Hollywood don't got any new original ideas, man. They just keep rehashing the same stuff over and over and over. And of course, we keep consuming it because that's all we get.
Well, when greed calls, you go for the lowest hanging fruit that has a chance of success. New ideas are scary. Note the sarcasm.
So, yeah. Hollywood just needs to hire me, the wife for them. I'll get them some new ideas. Only Melee showing books.
Though, with all the production costs for this kind of thing, I can understand wanting some kind of safety net.
Yeah, like average movie probably like cost $2-3 million to make these days.
I'm honestly out of date on the exact budget. It's just that it's a lot costlier than most other forms of media, with video games being the only real competitor, and that's mostly because of the budget getting vastly overblown.
Yeah, unless it's a smaller studio, they do spend a lot of money making these movies just so they can have special effects, and probably half the budget probably given to just hiring the more famous actors.
Yeah, there is quite a fame tax when it comes to the acting crowd, though I must admit I am terribly out of date beyond the initial concept.
Okay, I just got a notice that we have 10 minutes remaining, so I think this would be a good stopping point. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please click like, and if you like what you see, click subscribe for more videos. I do new review episodes every Wednesday. More podcast clips will come every Thursday. And until next time, we'll see you in March. So, got anything you want to end on with, Leo?
I really do need to come up with a blurb for this, don't I? But no, not tonight.
All right. That's all for this episode. We will see you in the next one. Bye.